I'm Meg Wilcox. I'm a faculty member in the journalism department here at MRU and a member of the MRFA. And joining me today is Mark Schrader. He is the advocacy officer and also on the MRFA exec. And Mark, you have some data we're going to go over today, some charts.
Yeah, I've been following MRU financial trends for quite some time now, and I think this is information that is of great value to our members. And what I'd like to do is start by setting the most important context by looking at student enrollment numbers and faculty trends. These really help, I think, our members understand where the institution has been and where it's headed.
Awesome. So what are we looking at here?
So this slide attempts to show mapping credit flee versus faculty headcounts, essentially. The credit flee means full load equivalent student registrations. So they're not actual human registrants necessarily. It's the equivalent of a full load. And these are taken from the MRU annual reports that are released on an annual basis. Those annual reports contain enrollment data for the institution. And that's showing up here in blue over the last decade plus. And the orange line shows faculty headcount data for full-time and limited term faculty. This data comes from MRFA membership data. It doesn't show contract faculty, not because they're not important. Contract faculty are over half of the MRFA membership, and they teach more than half of the credit instruction at the institution. But the numbers fluctuate semester to semester, and it's a bit harder to show on a graph.
So looking here, we peaked literally and figuratively in 2013.
That's right. So if we go back to about 2008, 2009, which was a milestone year in the university's history, we were rolling out the first large wave of our baccalaureate degrees. Our applied degrees were switching over to our bachelor degrees. Tons of work was going on at the institution, and our revenues and our expenses were going up. Our funding was increasing, and there was a massive wave of faculty hiring playing out at that time, full-time faculty hiring, and our enrollment numbers were growing as well. But in 2010, our operating grant was frozen at the 2009-2010 level. The net effect of that was that it effectively denied us the funding for the upper years of our new baccalaureate programs. The funding was rolling out year by year as students entered the pipeline, and we were effectively denied the promised funding for our upper years of our then new programs. The university responded in an interesting way at the time by saying, look, if the funding's not going to be there, then we'll throttle back our expectations, we'll throttle back our enrollments. And of course, they ultimately moved to slow faculty hiring. In 2013, that first whammy in 2010 was followed by a very large cut to our operating grant, which was unexpected. Faculty who were around at the time may remember that was a 7.3% cut to our operating funding after what was reported to be a promise of a 2% increase. And so the university had to pivot almost overnight to absorb an almost 10% cut to our operating grant.
Wow.
And it was there was a near panic at the time, I think it's fair to say. And so that's where we see the massive decline in full-time faculty headcount, full-time and limited term. And we saw the university take steps such as the early retirement incentive offer for full-time faculty, leaving vacant positions vacant, and so on. And really by 2016 or so, we'd hit more of the steady state that we're in now. There's been some fluctuation, but really faculty numbers have been held down. But the other thing that the 2013 cuts prompted was the university to adopt a new strategic direction for the university. And you don't have to take my word for this. This is right in explicitly in the annual reports of the time and subsequent years. But the strategy became growing enrollments while limiting instructional expenses. So keep instructional expenses down, but grow enrollment to compensate for funding cuts. And really that trend has persisted today. So if faculty want to know why their class sizes seem to get larger and larger, why there aren't enough full-time faculty around to shoulder the service burden of the institution, and so on, it's really these two trend lines that they have to understand.